The presidents of China and the United States will meet in Bali for the first time to discuss the direction the globe will go in the future. During their meeting in Bali, Indonesia, on November 14th, Chinese President Xi Jinping and United States Vice President Joe Biden exchanged a cross-Pacific handshake. This meeting took place on the eve of the official beginning of the 20 conference. The presidents of the United States and China are meeting face-to-face for the first time in 3 years at this historic summit. It was the first face-to-face meeting between the two leaders since President Biden took office, as well as the first interaction between the top leaders of the two countries after both China and the United States had finished their major domestic agendas for the year. The meeting lasted for more than 3 hours and was the first time it happened since President Biden took office. The two presidents of state considered that the meeting was comprehensive, candid, and productive, and they gave instructions to the working teams of both nations to ensure that the significant consensus established by the two heads of state is followed up on and put into action in a timely way. The primary topics of discussion were the general trajectory of Sino-American relations, how to balance cooperation and rivalry, the problem of Taiwan, and the disparities between the political structures of the two nations. The conversation between the two chiefs of state was open and in-depth at all points. What kind of atmosphere did Vice President Biden and President Xi Jinping create during their meeting this time around? The United States is going through a difficult period right now. Biden appeared to be in a good mood following the just completed midterm elections in the United States. According to him, the Democratic Party was in control of the Senate. However, the difficulty is that despite the fact that the Republicans did not achieve their primary goal, in January, they were successful in taking control of the House of Representatives. Pelosi's term as Speaker of the House of Representatives in the United States will end the following year. She will be succeeded in that position by a Republican, and Republican MPs have already expressed their opinions on the matter. They have compiled a long list of allegations against Biden and are intent on impeaching him as soon as possible. And it is abundantly clear that this is not simply an issue confined to the United States on the domestic front. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has been going on for an increasingly extended period of time, which has resulted in the loss of life across the entirety of Europe. It is anticipated that Europe will have a winter that is extremely cold this year, due to the fact that Europe is experiencing an energy crisis, economic crisis, and financial crisis all at the same time. A significant number of European industrial enterprises have been forced to relocate outside of Europe, which was the origin of the Industrial Revolution in the rest of the world. Why issues with electricity supply have rendered it difficult for European industry to continue operating as normal? The persistent raising of interest rates on the United States dollar is not likely to be successful in addressing the issue of inflation in the United States. As a direct result of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the entire Western world is currently facing the real possibility of an imminent economic downturn. On the surface, it appears that the United States' goal is to attack Russia by utilizing the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. But the truth is that not only all of Europe, but even the United States has been affected by this disaster. At this crucial juncture, the economy of the world is confronted with an increasing number of unknowns, and the situation in the domestic economy of the United States is particularly difficult to resolve. As a result, a great number of Americans started to cave in. It is believed that more than 30 Democrats in the United States signed a letter to Joe Biden requesting him to begin discussions with Vladimir Putin as soon as possible, and also to begin scheduling meetings with Chinese officials. The efforts that China and the United States have made together over the course of the last 10 years should be able to tackle many of the problems that exist in the world today. The United States of America and China serve as the world's primary economic supports. The economies of China and the United States together account for over 80% of the global economy. There are a great number of issues, all of which can be resolved in their entirety only if we have a conversation with one another. Therefore, the purpose of Vice President Biden's meeting with Chinese officials this time is to convey the message that the United States respects China's system, does not seek to change China's system, does not seek a new Cold War, does not seek to oppose China by strengthening alliances, does not support Taiwan's independence, and does not support China's adherence to the One China principle. Furthermore, the United States has no intention of engaging in conflict with China. The United States has no intention of pursuing a decoupling strategy from China in order to stifle China's economic growth or to keep China in check. The aforementioned declaration needs to be implemented by the American side. The position that Biden holds now is completely different from the one that he held in the past. In the past, in order to slander China, I kept promulgating bills trying to restrict all development in China and stabilize its international status. Biden's position has undergone a complete about-face since then. Only China is capable of continuing to develop in such a large environment, which currently features a turbulent epidemic on a global scale and frequent wars. One could say that China's position in the international community has been steadily improving over the years. Therefore, in order to revive the economic growth of the United States, Vice President Biden needed to consult with senior officials from China. Economists in the United States are of the opinion that the only way to address inflation in their country is to reduce tariffs placed on goods imported from China into the United States. The economy has always been a scenario in which everyone comes out ahead. The only way to assist the growth of both parties is through economic interactions. Regarding the massive and intricate Sino-American relations, it is obvious that the relationship between the two countries cannot continue to deteriorate. It is not possible to find solutions to all of the issues in a single meeting. However, the meeting between the leaders of China and the United States in Bali demonstrated that, despite their differences, the two major powers still share a great deal of consensus on a variety of topics. This opens up additional room and opportunities for the two nations to further properly manage their differences on particular issues and advance cooperation that is mutually beneficial. During the meeting, the two heads of state gave instructions to the working teams of the two sides, instructing them to follow up and implement the significant consensus reached by the two heads of state in a timely manner, as well as take concrete actions to push China relations back onto the track of stable development. This is unquestionably news that both nations and the rest of the world as a whole should be looking forward to. The invasion of Russia has further worsened a precarious situation for the global oil market, particularly in Europe. Oil and gas companies must thus work with national governments to mitigate the effects of a potential disruption in Russian oil and gas exports. Immediate action is required. Additionally, the industry has to strengthen its long-term relevance and resilience in the continuously changing energy market. A new global energy order that China and Russia are about to establish will transform everything. And that's what we'll be discussing today. Exposure of a sector's vulnerability, the oil and gas industry was already in trouble before to the conflict. An invasion or no invasion, the demand for energy was already starting to exceed the supply. Now, it was anticipated that once the market recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic, the gap between supply and demand would increase to 2 in 2022. The current global supply shortfall is unprecedented, and regrettably, there is no simple fix. Subscribe to this channel and watch other secret news on our channel you didn't know about